Let's get started.
Hey everybody, thanks again for tuning in to the Manny Show. I have with me MoNique. Say hi to him.
Hi.
She is a teacher, educator, researcher, influencer, dope person all together, rolled in one. I'm very excited to have her on. I've been following her on social media for quite some time now and just love the engagement and everything that she's doing. So I reached out to her like, hey, can you please be on the show? She agreed, so she's here. You guys are ready? Let's go, Manny Show. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Please tell the people your name and what you do.
Hi, my name's MoNique, and I am a kindergarten teacher. And I also have an Instagram where I have a lot of teachers that follow me, and I share resources that I create. And I also have a YouTube channel where I occasionally share just different teaching tips and things that I do in my classroom.
That's awesome. What made you get started with doing all of that? Like, you are a teacher. You could have just left all that great ideas and wisdom to yourself, but what made you want to share it?
Well, actually, one of my friends at work, she was telling me about all these teachers that she was following me on Instagram, and I was like, what do you mean all these teachers? She's like, there's all these famous teachers, and I was like, famous teachers? Yeah. And so I started following them, and they were sharing their great ideas and things like that, and I was like, oh, this is cool, this is interesting, and just for a while, I just kind of watched and listened to what they were doing, and I was like, well, I want to share some of the things that I'm doing in my classroom, and so it just kind of went from there. And so about last May of last year, I started gearing my Instagram page towards teaching, and then I kind of just went from there onto YouTube, and then I started my Teachers Pay Teachers, which is like a online network where basically tons of teachers share digital resources that other teachers can purchase, and then it's just kind of gone from there.
Nice. So when you first became a teacher, you had no idea that things would be like this right now.
No, I didn't at all. I just thought I was going to be in my own little classroom doing my own thing. Yeah. I mean, I knew that I for sure, not that I don't want to always be in the classroom, but I knew that in some ways I would venture out, but I wasn't sure exactly how. Gotcha. So no, I didn't expect this.
Well, you said kindergarten?
Yes, I teach in kindergarten.
How are those little kids, those
They're
little
fun.
guys?
I love my kindergartners. They're really awesome. Yes, I love them.
And so what's the ages?
5 and 6.
Okay.
They definitely say how they feel.
Yeah.
They don't have any filters.
Right. So how do you deal with all the different personalities that you have in the classroom?
You kind of, one of the most important things I think for any educator is to build relationships. So when I first, at the beginning of the year, I don't focus really on any content, any direct lessons or anything like that. I'm really just focused on getting to know my students and making them feel comfortable, and so then I can kind of I know how each of my students will react to different situations. Gotcha.
So give us some quick tips on how to do that. So for a teacher, honestly, like a manager that might have a new staff, what's some pointers?
Just talking to them, just taking time to listen to them and talk to them, and just in the mornings, instead of jumping right into your day, sometimes I just talk to them okay, what did you guys do this weekend? And sometimes you really only want that to be 5 minutes, and it ends up being 30 minutes, and it's you have to be okay with that because you listen to them and you learn about them and they learn about you.
So what do you think the importance of doing that is?
Like I said, really just to build relationships, build that trust, and when your students have a good relationship with you, it helps in all areas. They respect you, they want to make sure that you're happy, so they behave better in class. It really just trickles down to everything. They feel more comfortable coming to you if they're having an issue or a problem, and it just really makes them feel comfortable within your classroom.
I love it. So where'd you get this concept from? Where'd you learn it at?
I guess just from other past teachers, and then like I said, some teachers that I follow, but it kind of was just to me, kind of common sense. You want people to know you, and I'm around them all the time. So when I very first started teaching, I had 3 days in my classroom to get it ready before my first year. Yeah. And I built this big, huge paper tree, and it was our family tree. And just from that very moment, I established with my students, we're a family. And so all of my students will say that from my very first year to this year now, they all say, we're a family, we take care of each other. So I've always just had that kind of, just thing going on in my classroom.
That makes sense. So, with all the different personalities that you see on a daily basis, for when you see one of those kids that might be having a tougher time than the other ones, and without using the word bad, just maybe some challenging behavior, like how do you deal with that but still stay focused on those that are interested in that particular lesson or just activity?
Well, I find that especially with kindergarten and younger kids, that kids want attention, whether it's good or bad. So if I see, or like, correcting them, or whether it's like glorifying the good. So if I see a student who is not doing exactly what they should be doing at that time, I'm going to focus on the kids that are. So I'm going to say, I really like the way so-and-so is sitting over there. I really like the way so-and-so raised their hand.
Gotcha.
And then the rest of them are like, she's not saying my name. And so they just all kind of follow up. Like, kids want attention. And if you're focusing on the kid who's not listening, and you're like, so-and-so, stop doing that. So-and-so, stop doing that. Like, they're not real. They're getting the attention that they want. So it's more important to do positive reinforcements than to focus on the negative. Now, sometimes that doesn't work, but most of the time I find that it does.
Yeah. All right, now let's talk about MoNique. Let's go in the past. So did you have like parents that were educators, other family members?
Okay, my parents are not, but my aunt and my uncle are.
Okay.
But I don't think that was necessarily the reason why I wanted to be a teacher. I've always just loved kids.
Gotcha.
I've always just loved being around kids and things like that. When I was younger, there was a store called Holcomb's. It was a teacher store in Solon, Ohio, and I remember shopping there with my mom and buying things and playing school and stuff like that. So I don't think it was really like any one person that made me want to do it. I think it was just that the fact that I just loved being around children.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So when you, let's say, teenage years, were you still like having that passion at that time to be a teacher one day?
I knew I wanted to work with kids. I went through a phase where I wanted to be an actress, and my mom told me, you're going to be poor living on the streets. So I gave up that dream real quick. I was like, I don't want to be poor. I don't know if that was the best thing for her to say. And then I was like, okay, Mom. And then in high school, I did want to be a teacher, but my mom, again, bless her heart, she was like, you should be a nurse. Nursing is better. Like, you'll be able to get a job and things like that. So we had a nursing program at my high school. And for your junior and senior year, you could join and you would graduate with your STNA license. So I did that my junior year, and I hated it. And my dad was like, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to be a teacher. And he was like, well, tell your mom. And I told her, and she was like, okay, but do whatever you want. And now she goes back and she's like, I'm so glad you didn't listen to me.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, so I think it was always in my heart. I worked at daycares when I was in high school. I worked for a free lunch program. And then I worked at daycares all throughout college and everything like that. So I knew that I wanted to work with kids.
So was it easy matriculating through school to become a teacher for you?
I think for me, I think so. I mean, I don't want to sound, I hate saying that, like, but I just really think that is what I was meant to do. Like, certain things just do not come as hard for me. It's just like, it's kind of natural. There are things that are difficult about it, but for the most part, I found teaching just to be like, oh, okay, I can do that. Like, you can put me in a classroom, and I'm pretty sure that unless it's like a biology or chemistry class in high school, I'm pretty sure that I can get the kids' attention.
That makes sense.
And engaged.
So what is the challenging part for you?
I would say the most challenging part is the politics behind teaching. It's not really anything in my classroom or anything like that. It's just like all of the extra pressures placed on teachers.
Gotcha. Well, explain.
Just like, I mean, public school teachers are like I feel like we're one of the most bashed careers. Like, people are anything that goes wrong, whether it's teen pregnancies or kids going hungry, violence, bullying, it's all on teachers. Like, well, teachers aren't doing this and teachers aren't doing that, test scores and all of these things. And it's just like, there's a lot of pressure. And there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, like kindergartners taking standardized tests. Like, I don't agree with that. I'll never agree with that. But there's nothing I can do about that. You know what I mean? So there's just different things like that where it's just like, it's very hard to deal with, because a lot of the people who make these policies are people who aren't educators or who have never been educators. So it's just, that's the most difficult part for me.
Have you ever considered being an administrative role?
Before I became a teacher, like before when I was in school and I was getting my master's, I got my master's in curriculum and instruction. And I did that before I got my own classroom. And so that's like considered an administrative position.
Gotcha.
But I don't know anymore. Now
Gotcha.
that I've kind of seen everything, I'm like, I don't know.
You kind of feel comfortable and safe in your role?
Yeah, I do, for now. Who
Okay.
knows? I never say never, but for right now, I like being in the classroom.
Yeah. Let's talk about the latest shooting
Okay.
with the school. Like, you being an educator, like, how did you feel and react to the first time you heard that news?
For some reason, this one was different. I don't know why it was so different. I don't know if it was because the students involved in it were very vocal about it, but it made me more scared than normal. It was the first big shooting that happened since I've been a teacher.
Gotcha.
And so it just made me like, I'm always a teacher with my door open. And since then, we have a school policy to have our doors locked at all times. They don't have to be closed, but they should be locked so that if something did happen, you can immediately close it.
Gotcha.
And like being honest, sometimes I didn't always follow that rule. Now my door is always locked and it's always closed.
Gotcha.
It made me have conversations that very next day with my students. Not telling them like if there's a shooter, but just saying we don't open the door for anyone.
Gotcha.
So now when someone knocks at the door, my students look at me and then I say you can open it.
Gotcha.
And they become so it just made me like a little bit more like feeling a little bit less comfortable than I did before. And just kind of just very frustrated with just our country as a whole, because I think we could be doing so much more.
Yeah. Now, this is a huge huge question to try to answer, but what do you personally think needs to be done, MoNique, in order to try to solve some of the issues on a more granular scale?
It's not just one thing. I think that mental health, I get very, very, very frustrated with the mental health care that our country provides. I don't think that it's good. And I feel very, very sad for people who suffer from mental illness because I don't think that they're respected. I think that they're, placed in these facilities and placed back on the streets and they're not given the help that they need, or they're given prescriptions for medications that their insurances don't cover, so they then can't afford them, so then they still don't take them, or they're placed in facilities that aren't. So I think mental health care is like a big one. I think providing schools with resources to have more school counselors and more school psychologists and smaller class sizes so that teachers can recognize students that are maybe acting a little bit different. If you have 30 plus kids in your classroom and someone's being really quiet, you might not think to yourself, oh, this kid is like depressed. You're gonna think, oh, he's quiet. Like, thank God he's being quiet, because the rest of them are all loud. And so that's another example of where public school teachers are being accused of not being there for these students. But it's like, well, you place them in a classroom with 30 plus kids. They didn't even really notice that kid was kind of like out there, not really focused. They just were focused on the kids who were doing a lot. So I think providing schools with more resources, and then changing our gun laws. I think we definitely need stricter gun laws. There are certain guns that I don't think need to be on the streets. They're weapons of war. They're war weapons. There's no reason that anyone needs those types of guns.
Yeah, and it's so tough. I mean, even the point you made in regards to the large number of students in each particular class, like, it's kind of hard to solve that problem, because it's like, one opinion might be, well, let's make smaller classrooms, but it's like, where are we going to get all the teachers to be able to do that? And then we might not even have the room in order to do that. So it's just really tough, and I think it's up to each teacher, in my opinion, to manage her class in an appropriate way, still keeping with the standards and policies of that particular school, but really being creative in the way that she teaches, and make sure that every single student is engaged in some type of way.
Yeah, it is. It's just, if you're not in the classroom, it's very easy for people to come and say what this teacher should do and what that teacher should do, but there's so many things. Like, these kids come in with more problems than I've ever faced in my life, and it's just like, there's just so many things, and so it's hard. Like, that's why I said there's not just one thing, and it's not something that can be fixed like in a year even. Like, no, we need to build better schools that have more classrooms, and we need to pay teachers more so that more people want to be educators, and we need to stop stop doing all these things that are deterring great people who might actually want to be teachers from becoming teachers. I can imagine right now, if I was in high school, all the things that they're saying, like arming teachers with guns and all of these teachers who are getting paid next to nothing and living basically below poverty level, I would probably be like, I'm gonna do something else to work with kids. So making teaching a field that people actually want to join again and feel good about, respecting teachers and respecting like what they say that they need, just like we do with so many other careers. When you're in a business and there's tons of businessmen saying like, hey, we need this, and this, it's not as hard for them to get those things or those resources. If you're working in an office building and you say, hey, we're out of pens, guess what? They're gonna go buy pens. But if a teacher says, hey, we don't have any paper, guess what they say? Oh, well, we ran out of paper for the year. And so then you have to go buy your own paper. So it's just like making sure that teachers are respected and that their needs are really being met.
Gotcha. So why is that such a large issue as far as supplies? Because I've heard that same thing even when I was younger, like with books, like they need new books, need this. And then now I see a lot of the times at the beginning of the year, they really put it on the responsibility of each student with their parents in order to purchase a lot of stuff and even extra stuff for the class. And, you know, I get it because it's going to be very quickly that paper is gone, pens are gone, pencils are gone.
Funding. The schools don't have the money to pay for it. So then like at my school, I'm very lucky where my parental involvement is very high, but like all of our school supplies like glues, crayons, scissors, everything, the papers, the parents purchase at the beginning of the year. If they weren't purchasing those things, I would be purchasing those things.
Gotcha.
So it's just a matter of funding and just every school gets a different amount of money, and they have, I think some choose to spend it in certain places, and it just depends on how they choose to put that money out into their school and what they choose to use it for, or if they even have the funds to pay for it.
Now, how was MoNique as a little one?
In school?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Oh, you probably have to ask them. I talked a lot.
Okay.
I talked
class
a lot.
clown?
I think no, I wasn't a class clown. I just talked a lot. I was very opinionated.
Okay.
Like in elementary school, I was pretty good. But I just talked. Like all of my report card says, could talk a little less, or very talkative, or very chatty.
Yeah.
In high school, I had a little bit of an attitude.
Okay.
I think most girls go through that. But I was never bad. I think
what high school did you go to?
Bedford High School.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
My wife went to Bedford.
Yeah. We went to school together. We were in cheerleading together.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you were labeled as the person that talked a lot. I was too.
Yeah, I was very chatty.
Yeah. But did you allow that to disrupt other students and your work?
No, I always got good grades, but that was more so just because I was not allowed to get C's. If I got a C on my report card, everything was gone. My TV, my phone, everything. My parents were very, very strict about that. So I had to get A's and B's.
Okay.
Not that I never got C's, but no, I always did well academically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that structure helped you to become more disciplined in life period?
Yeah, even in college, I had like this weird thing where I was like, I'm not going out on weekdays. And so I made this, like no one else is making this rule for me. Or even when I went to grad school, I was like, I'm getting a 4.0. And so I'm very like, I've been very successful in school, and it's not something that comes natural to me. I am not the person who goes to class and understands it the first time. I have to study, and work very hard. So I did very well in school, but I worked very hard to do well.
Awesome. Now, do you think that every student learns differently?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Everybody learns differently.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I say is because when I was in high school, don't laugh at me because it's pretty sad, but I had a 1.8 GPA when I graduated.
I know plenty of people who were in that situation and are extremely successful.
Yeah.
It just depends. It depends on the teacher and the way that they're presenting the content and things like that. Like, I think about some of the classrooms that I were in, they definitely weren't as engaging as some of the teachers I see now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was open up your book, write down the vocabulary words, and that was it. Like, that's all we ever did. Or copy the notes off the board, and they had like the paper where you filled in the notes and things like that. I think that I see a lot of teachers becoming a lot more creative because of that, just the way that they have their classroom structured and things like that, because they're recognizing that, you know, everyone learns differently and everyone needs different things. That's why in my classroom, I'm moving, I'm singing, or, you know, sometimes we're just sitting down and talking. There's all different types
so
of...
what's the song, MoNique? Sing for us.
Oh, no. I don't have a song on the top of my head.
No, are they the kind of songs that you kind of like make up just in the spur of the moment?
Some of them are.
Okay.
Like, some of them are. There's one video that I had on my Instagram. It was like a math one. It was like, strategies help us a lot. I made that up like that more, I don't know, like right before then. And I was like, and so the next day I was like, oh, I can record this. Like, but some of them I make up. Some of them I make up when I'm driving to work. But none of them are anything that I'm like sitting there for hours coming up with. I don't have that type of time.
No, that makes sense. So getting back to my story. So after I graduated with a 1.8 GPA, then I went and got my theology degree. And then I got my bachelor's and my master's. And this is what was like so dope when I really understood that everybody learns differently, is because I got my bachelor's and my GPA was a 3.9. Then my master's was a 4.0. But guess what? So my bachelor's and master's were both online.
Okay.
So I just was able to teach myself, understand the material, apply it to life instances. And I was like, wow, like this seems so freaking easy. But I know if I was at brick and mortar school, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
And I think too, it was because it was something that was interesting to you.
Yeah.
It was something that you were passionate about. Whereas in school, you're learning about all these different things like math. I was never good at math. I'm never going to be good at math. I diagnosed myself with this like math disability.
Man, I
can't remember the name of it, but I'm like, I have that. We learned about it in school, and I was like, I have that. That's what I have. I just can't.
I like
get
freak
it.
out.
Oh, I get so much anxiety. I'm like, I don't know. Oh, I don't do math.
It was so funny. I was in a relationship because my bachelor's and master's are both in organizational management. And in my bachelor's program, the person I was with at the time, they actually had to help me get through that class. I was like, if you don't help me, I'll never get a degree, because I can't do this. Like it's not that it's like super duper hard, but it's just like, my brain just does not go to that place. But it's
I understand.
You know, and it's just like I was able to write 3 books, working on my 4th. But it's just like in terms of doing stuff like math, chemistry, geometry, I'm like, that's disgusting. Like I can't.
I think it takes a special kind of person's brain. I'm like, what do you do? And then I just developed this attitude where I was like, and this is horrible for a teacher to say, but I was like, I don't even need to know this. I really don't. Who cares where X and Y are? Like, nobody cares. Like, I'm like, I don't need to know this. So I'm glad I don't have. I joke to my principal all the time, because I'm certified to teach K through 3, and I'm like, don't put me in. This sounds awful, but I'm like, don't put me in 3rd grade, because I can't teach them that. I mean, 3rd grade math is at my school. It's pretty advanced. I tutored, and I was like, hold on, let me remember how to do. You're doing what equation? Yes. Right. So I don't know. I do not.
It's crazy
like
because
it's my favorite.
One of my daughters, she's in Solon school, and man, like, aside from her just being super smart, when she's like explaining certain things, like even like math, I'm like, okay, babe, like, I'm glad you don't need any help. Like, no, I got it, Dad. And it's like, I like the way that her teacher and the other teachers at the school teach. Like, even if she doesn't know a word, they won't tell her, but they'll have her research it and try to find it some kind of way and sound it out. And she's in 3rd grade now, and it's like, I'm so proud of her. Yeah. But it's just like, man, I can only imagine if I was a student right now trying to go to your school.
I mean, everything is pushed forward so much more than when I was in school. They're learning so much, but they're capable of it. They're doing it, and so I'm like, why not? If they can do it and they're learning it, give it to them earlier, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So what scared you the most about our education system?
How little control actual teachers have in decisions that are made. Like, it just takes one bill to be passed for things to be changed, or one person to say, oh, I mean, like, even like within my 4 years of teaching, we've received 2 different new curriculums, and a new math, a new science, I think the other grades received a new social studies. The tests are constantly changing. Like, it's just so many things that are constantly changing. It's like once you get a handle on something, it's like, we're going to change this again.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's just like, it's very hard for people to adjust to things or get a rhythm going because things are constantly changing. And so I think that just makes me the most nervous, or just how they just put so much pressure on teachers and things. And so I mean, like right now my biggest concern is like them saying that they want to arm teachers with guns, and I've personally said that the second that they do that at my school is the day that I leave my school, because I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
So just things like that where it's just like you can vote and you can protest and you can call and things like that, but I think that we all know realistically, like, some things just, as much as you want to do, like I said, it just takes one bill to be passed and one politician to make a decision, and things are completely changed and your world can be turned completely upside down.
So you feel that teachers should have more of a say in some of these matters or something?
Yeah.
But how would they do that with like thousands and thousands of teachers being all over the country?
I think it wouldn't be easy, but I mean, I think that just listening, taking the time to actually listen to teachers.
Almost
I feel
like focus groups and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like teachers have been saying how they feel, but it's like when we say things, it's like they just make a completely other decision. Like, it's almost like they listen to us and then but they're not really listening. It's like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, let's hear what they have to say, but they already have their minds made up about what they want to do.
Okay.
And I think just actually listening or even going into classrooms, like, take some time to go into a classroom and see how it is before you make a decision for how that school should run or what curriculum works best for that classroom.
Gotcha.
Take some time to actually sit in there and see like what these teachers are actually dealing with.
That makes sense. So MoNique, what inspires you?
My students.
Yeah.
My students.
That's what's up. Each and every one of them?
Yeah, I love my kids. I do. I really do. I love my students. They're never the reason. I mean, most of the time I always want to go to work. I don't ever wake up I don't want to go to work. But my students are really, if I ever have a bad day, it's typically not because of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Now, what would you tell the MoNique at 15 years old right now? Everything that you've learned and all the advice that you've been given that you really have become the woman that you are right now.
15-year-old MoNique, oh my goodness, I would tell 15-year-old MoNique to keep doing what she's doing. Honestly, I think that I'm not a person, I don't live with regrets. So I think that everything that's happened in my life has taught me and has made me become the woman that I am now. So I would just tell her to keep working hard, stay focused, and to take in as much as you can. And really, that would be honestly it. I think that I'm in a very good place. I'm very proud of myself and where I'm at. And so I would just tell her to keep on doing what you're doing.
Awesome. All right. Any last words as we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I had an awesome time with you on the show, and you shared a lot of great tips and gave a lot of great advice. I'm really looking forward to all the people that you will help through this interview.
Thank you so much. Oh, and make sure to follow me on Instagram at It's MoNique's World.
Awesome,
and
awesome.
on YouTube. And you can find more teaching tips.
All right, we are out, guys. Manny Hart Show. Peace.
Bye.